Well, we've talked about CSS rules. We've talked about CSS selectors. We've talked about specificity. Now we need to talk about properties. The truth is, there are more CSS properties than I can mention. So, in your notes, I'll just give you two really great resources. We've talked about both of these in class. One is at W3 Schools, and you go to the references area for CSS. And there's another one at HTML-Dog. Again, you go to the references area and CSS properties. But there are a couple things that I want to mention about CSS properties. One thing is that so far we've written all our rules like this. Or maybe I've done it out of habit a different way. It doesn't really matter if I hit a hard return here and put a tab there, and if I hit a hard return and take that out. It doesn't really matter if I put spaces or tabs or hard returns in here. I can do it however I want. Some people like to write their CSS rules all in one line. So they'll write color green, background color white, margin 5 pixels, 5 pixels, 10 pixels, 20 pixels, and 10 pixels, border, thick, dashed, black. Whoops. Okay. I don't like writing several properties all in one line because I think it's hard to read. So what I do is whenever I get to a new property, I hit return. That way the properties are listed out in a column, and it's just easier to read them that way. I also like to have my curly bracket underneath so that I can see it easily. So you can list more than one property in one CSS rule. You just have to be sure that you include the semicolon at the end of each of these statements. Okay? Next thing we need to talk about is CSS element, or not elements, values. There are lots of different values. Again, too many to mention here. You can see values that are words like green, white, values that are units like 5 pixels, 10em, 20%. Okay, those are all valid values. Some values are adjectives like thick, dashed. Some are hexadecimal numbers. Again, there's really too many values to list here. But one thing you should know about values is that some values are more than one word. So if the values are if there's more than one option for a value, for example, there's a top, left, bottom, and right margin, then you can potentially put in a value for each of those. So if it's something that's a box, like a margin or a border, then, well, let's stick with margin. If it's something like a margin, and you list the top, the right, the bottom, and the left, remember trouble. Whoops, I should put that, if I'm going to make a comment, I should do it the right way. Okay, so if I want to indicate 4 different settings for top, right, bottom, and left, as in a margin, then I can do it like this. If I only put one number there, then that number indicates all 4 top, right, bottom, and left. If I put 2, then this indicates the top and the bottom, and this indicates the right and the left. If I put 3, then this indicates the top, the right and left, and the bottom. And this is true for other rules as well. Any rule that will take more than one value. Border is another one. But let's not talk about border right now. Let me show you something else on margin. If I want to, I could say margin top. That way, I don't have to style, I don't have to set the other margins. They will just take their default. But what I don't want to do is do this, margin top, margin bottom, margin left, margin right, and just repeat this. Because that would be a bigger, messier, uglier file than I really need. If I really want 5 pixels all the way around, it's best to just say margin 5 pixels. Okay? So that's a little bit of information about values in selectors. Or, sorry, values in CSS rules.